Howdy, and welcome to the Tiki Chatter podcast. In today's episode, me and my good friend Jack discuss the Championships finale, the FA Cup, Leeds and their return to the Premier League, and Watford and their ludicrous situation with Nigel Pearson. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the chatter. Hello and welcome back to episode 2 of the Tiki Chatter podcast. Yes, it's a bit of a mouthful. And yes, we're back. We're making a second one. We're not a one-hit wonder. I'm joined yet again with...
Jack.
And you might notice we've had a little upgrade. Firstly, your boys got a new microphone, so hopefully I sound a little bit better than last week. And we've also got our ugly mugs on your screen, so...
No one wants to see that.
Well, I'll speak for
I
myself.
feel like that's going to be next week's complaint.
Yeah. So
didn't need people's faces.
Either an upgrade or a downgrade, depends how you look at it.
Yeah.
So how have you been since the last episode, Jack?
Yeah, all right. I think I maybe was losing the plot a little bit on Brighton getting relegated.
Yeah, getting a bit more sleep these days.
Yeah, getting a bit more sleep. Well, no, sleeping proper hours because I've started work now.
Yeah.
Which will remain unknown to you all, so you can't cancel me.
Sleep schedule's important.
But yeah, no, I think, after the Southampton result, Newcastle result, I'm a bit more relaxed now.
Yeah. I mean, the Newcastle game was very boring.
I remember a few seasons ago, Fleetwood and Doncaster played each other in the last game of the season, and it was 0-0. And on their Twitter account, they put up today's highlight, and it was them kicking off. And then the next highlight was the goalkeeper taking a goal kick, and they blew up the final whistle.
That's pretty much
done that in that game. There are some points which I thought were positive though. Lots of people were just saying we were playing terrible, but I watched it. I thought Lamptey didn't have the greatest game again, and I think maybe teams are starting to find out his physicality.
I think he played well, but
I think he played all right. And he got Richie booked.
Yeah, he didn't get involved enough for me though.
No.
When he had the ball, he was good, but defensively, I think, yeah, like you say, physicality. But
and as soon as AC9 found his way on the pitch, Joel Litt.
I mean, Andy Carroll's a worried sight for every defender. I'm going to go out on a whim and say Andy Carroll, I'd have him at Brighton. He's just so scary. I'm still clinging on to the 2012 Andy Carroll goal against Sweden.
I'm going to give you a strong no on that one. Wouldn't take Andy Carroll. I think he's hardly played for Newcastle this season.
Yeah, typical case of had it all to gain and didn't look after himself and was too interested in going to festivals and getting pissed. Which is a shame because I did actually really like him.
He did. I think he got a lot of stick at Liverpool because they sold Torres, who was at the time the world's best striker probably when they sold him to Chelsea, and then they brought in Andy Carroll, who I think if he had gone to somebody else without the sort of the shadow of
we
Torres,
had the expectation to fill.
Yeah, he wouldn't have been the same success. And I think the 35 million it was, which at the time was an obscene. I think it was a record for a British player at the time.
Yeah.
And you expect more. And as well, he's not the same player as Torres. Like Torres is I wouldn't say he's the quickest, but he's a clinical striker. He's not exactly a target man. And just to bring in a sort of traditional number, AC9.
Yeah, I think he. Yeah, I think it was.
I think he did all right at West Ham, but it was just the injuries. The injuries were too much.
Yeah, which is a shame. When he was at Newcastle, he he really was supposed to be the next big thing.
Well, yeah, I
So
think I only really checked it the other day, but he scored a few goals even in the Premier League. I think under Houghton when they first came up.
did he?
But it just hasn't worked out for him. I remember when we went up to Newcastle earlier in the season, it was his first game back, and it was like the return of the prodigal son. And he just sort of walked around for 20 minutes and just barged into people and gave away fouls.
Yeah.
If I were the Championship club, I'd take him, but
Oh, 100%. He's
I
big for that league.
can't see a Premier League club taking him on at the moment. Too injury prone,
Yeah.
or he'll just have another year at Newcastle.
Yeah, I'm not saying obviously he would get into Liverpool's team, but
What is
the sort
the
of
current
role
Liverpool
that
team?
Bobby Firmino plays, where he's there to feed Mane and Salah,
No,
if he
yeah,
had two good wingers around him, mustard. Anyway, we've spoke
yeah,
far too long about Andy Carroll. More pressing
yeah.
topics.
AC9, thank you very much.
AC9. Um,
Yeah.
would he get into Leeds team? Now they're up. What do you think of Leeds? How have they
Well,
been
I
this
think
year?
Bamford is pony.
I think Bamford's bad.
I've watched Leeds live in the flesh this season when I was up at uni in Huddersfield. I watched the 3-3 draw against Cardiff where they were 3-0 up on about 70 minutes. Ended
Big
up drawing
bottle.
3-3. Yeah, lots of 50-year-old men near me having complete and utter like mental breakdowns, which is good to see, regardless of whether it's Leeds or not. It was great to see them completely lose the plot. But some of the football Leeds played in that game is the best I've ever seen a team in the Championship play. Like, it's fantastic
Really?
passing football, and I will give them credit. They played really, really well. But the thing is, they have Bamford up front, and you have all this amazing play, and he just can't finish for Toffee. You think and I know it might sound a bit strange, and probably even an Andy Carroll or a Glenn Murray, maybe Andy Carroll's not the most clinical finisher, but definitely Glenn Murray. You put him in their team in the Championship, and he's getting 30 goals a season in that side.
In the
But
Prem?
no, sorry, in the Championship.
Yeah, I
And you
fully
think if
agree.
they get a good clinical finisher when they come up, Leeds fans are already talking about top four, and
Fuck that.
yeah, let's just chill it out a little bit.
Well,
Yeah.
I think the litmus test was when they played Arsenal in the FA Cup. Very good. They did play very well. Their football was great. They're playing Arsenal under Emery, I believe. So
No, it's Arteta.
was it
FA Cup
third
third round.
round?
Yeah, he went before Christmas, didn't he, Emery?
Okay. Either way,
Yeah.
we Arsenal weren't.
It's very early.
Yeah, it wasn't an established
Arteta.
Arsenal team, but they gave us a runaround. They gave Arsenal a runaround for an hour. They were the better team first half for sure. It's hard to say whether they can keep up that sort of intensity.
But they seem very much, like you say, they're a side who just aren't quite clinical enough. As much because in the Championship, like some of the players, like I say, Bamford it seems to be the weak link in it all. But even though he scored about 16 or 17 goals this season, but in reality,
15.
if he puts
But
15,
they'll replace him, I'm sure.
yeah, I'm sure that'll be their top priority. But they seem like a side who, when they come up, top four, let's all calm down a little bit.
I can't see him doing
Even
awards.
Europe, but I can see them coming up, being impressive. I don't think they'll go straight back down.
No, I don't
think
they
they'll
will.
be one of those sides. But I do think there'll be times where they go to places like Arsenal and they'll play really nice football and they'll be on top for a lot of it, like Brighton in their
Yeah, I
first
was going
season.
to say there's shades of Potter ball.
Yeah, and it's great
Leeds.
football, but you just need to have that clinical edge. And in the Championship, defenders make so many mistakes, and even Leeds defenders make mistakes. But in the Premier League, players like Aguero, they're bang on that. You're
You
not given
can't
a
give
second.
him half a chance.
No, as we learned in our first season in
Yeah.
the Premier League.
So obviously Leeds are going to be losing Ben White next season. We hope his loan doesn't get renewed or whatever. What do you see happening to
Hmm.
Ben White next season?
I see him staying at Brighton. I've said it before and I say it again. I don't see clubs spending a lot. Um, we're probably going to be asking for 40 million plus for Ben
For
White.
sure. He's 22 still, isn't he?
20, I believe. So he's even younger than that. Or he's 21. I'm probably going to get slated by a load of Leeds fans if they'll find this because they're like, you didn't even know who Ben White was before he came to us. And I did, but I just can't remember his age.
Yeah.
He is, oh no, he's 22. You got it bang on the money.
Too much Wikipedia.
Yeah. No, I see him staying. I think,
Do you reckon he
Leeds
gets into
fans,
Brian's team?
yeah, I think he gets in a back three definitely, and he's played in a defensive midfield role for Bielsa.
I
But,
pray that Brian play a back three next season, just off the record.
what I would see it as is, for me personally, this is what I prefer, is us to not necessarily play a back three, but to play Ben White in a defensive midfield role, which means that he can easily drop it into a back three. Stevens has tried it a few times this season, and it's not really worked because he's just not a centre back. But if you have a
No.
centre back which has moved forward, I think that's the one major piece of the puzzle we miss at Brighton is that defender who can just slip back into the hole.
Yeah, I agree. I
Um,
mean, Basuma has been trying to do that of late, but I
hmm,
think that's not what we want him for. He's a
he
skillful
breaks up
lad.
the plan.
I'd prefer to see him a bit further forward, trying to start the attacks going the other way rather than breaking
Yeah,
down. I
definitely,
mean, he can do
definitely.
both, but
Hmm.
a bit of cover for him would be nice.
Yeah,
Um,
it would be. Would be. I think that's the role I see him playing, or in a back three, but the more mobile. Um, Actually, one thing I was going to highlight from the Newcastle game was Webster moved over to a right back towards the end when Lamptey came off, and he made some great runs. And he's played right back before. I think away to Sheffield United at times,
yeah,
and he hasn't looked too shabby at right back. So he could definitely be that right centre back, which is almost like a full back at times, so like a Carl Walker
yeah.
kind of role for Man City. So I think there's definitely ways you can fit inside. And as we know with Potter, he doesn't really seem to have a consistent lineup,
That's for
to
sure.
say them. Yeah, that's an understatement, to be honest. So it'll be interesting to see where Ben White may fit in. I think if he goes, he won't go to Leeds. He'll go to a top six club, someone like Liverpool or Arsenal.
Yeah, I'd,
Chelsea is screaming out for a centre back. Um,
well,
so yeah,
I did see that Lampard's. They've got four centre backs and he keeps rotating them, and
yeah,
but
he
yeah, they're
likes to
screaming
rotate.
out for a world class centre back. He's sort of got four mediocre centre backs.
Hmm.
Um,
Um,
if I
yeah,
had to
especially.
pressure
Oh yeah.
you for where Leeds finish next year,
I think similar to us in our first year, just around the 40-point mark. I can't see them going down. I think there are weaker teams, maybe even weaker teams coming up as well. Because we've just had confirmation of another team coming up, West Brom. I think they'll struggle. I don't think they'll come up and stay up.
well, especially if they lose Pereira or don't re-sign
Um,
him. Sorry.
well, even then, if they do sign him, I just don't see. They haven't even really competed on a financial level in the Championship.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know where the money's going to come from. I'm a big fan of Slaven Bilic, though. I do like him
100%.
as a manager.
He's a good lad as well.
Good manager. Good. I was talking to a West Ham friend just before this, and I was saying that if they had kept Bilic, they'd be in a better position now than they would have when they sacked him.
Yeah, because they've
Um,
just been flip flopping around.
they've just gone through so many managers, and I just feel like even though he was on a poor run, a bit of stability would have goes a long way,
I think
especially for a
some
club
of the
like West Ham.
signings he made as well. He got Payet.
Payet,
Didn't he get Hernandez as well? Chicharito.
yes, he did.
I mean, Diop probably.
Maybe,
Nah, probably not Diop. I'm
but
sorry to our West Ham friends, but
but yeah, no, like I think Bilic is a great
he's got
manager,
a
so it'll
great
be
eye for
interesting.
talent as well.
I think they will struggle though next season.
It would almost make sense for them to do a bit of a Norwich. I mean, obviously, Norwich, shocking season, but the incentive to go straight back down is shocking.
Like, yeah, it's. I don't think they'll be as bad as Norwich. Norwich were just a team who came up and were just like, we're just going to play our way. We've got an idea, and full respect to that. But you know, if
The
you want to
fans
stay in this
want
league,
results. They don't want.
yeah, and especially when you're at the bottom of this league, it's not about how the way you play. It's about getting results. And I think that's one of the best things. I'm going back to Brighton again, but that's one of the best things since the restart Potter has been good at is that our teams that Brighton have just grinded out results.
Yeah.
They've done exactly what they've needed to do, and they've stayed up quite comfortably in the end with a game to spare. So it'll be interesting to see where this all sort of what it goes for them two coming up, and the playoffs could be anybody coming up really.
Back to the Championship. So we've got the playoffs coming up.
Yep.
What's the fixtures for that?
Well, so I've just come off the back of what was a fantastic final day of the Championship. I stand by when I say it is honestly the best league in the world. Nothing comes anywhere near. Well, I've had that gin and tonic on the go for about an hour and a half.
Nursing it.
Yeah, nursing it big time. No, it is the best league in the world. It's just so open. There were so many goals.
So if we pull the table up.
Yep.
We got Brentford, Fulham, Cardiff, and Swansea making the playoffs.
That was a hell of an effort by Swansea to get in there on the last day.
So a 4-goal swing, you said.
Yeah, it was a 4-goal swing before the game. No, 5-goal swing because it would have been 3-1 and 4-1. So, and they overturned it right in the last minute. Swansea made it 4-1, and then Nottingham Forest scored a comedy own goal to make it 4-1. But they were just throwing everyone forward.
Heads gone.
Yeah, definitely. And that fair play to Swansea. They've got a very young team, haven't spent a lot of money. Brewster looks fantastic in the Championship. I think I've put him on fraud watch a few times.
Yeah, I would have agreed with that.
But I would take him. I would take him on loan at Brighton.
I think Brewster had to get some first team football. He was sort of,
and he was never gonna get that at Liverpool this season.
I feel like he was sort of hiding in the reserves. He had this huge name over his head.
Yeah.
Next Mbappe almost. But 20 years old now, he needed credit to Cooper, the Swansea manager. I recall him coming out in an interview before the game saying, we ain't giving up yet. So,
well, quite.
They've proved the
they've
point.
done really well. Swansea get the playoffs. I think the top two in the playoffs, they've been certain for months now. It was just a case of whether Brentford go up automatically.
Commiserations for Brentford. They're
a good side, but something I've always highlighted with them, and this is why they're not my pick for the playoff. They just have no experience in that side. They've got some great young players there. I mean, if you look at their starting lineup tonight, and I'll just get it up, and there's just no experience in that side. And my uncle's a big Brentford fan, and I've said to him before, I think the side's great. You've got some of the best young players in the league, but there's just no experience. You've got Jensen. He's 28, I think he is, but not experienced in this league, in this country. Because I know, for example, not to say another Brighton analogy, but the best players on our side were players like Steve Sidwell, Dale Stevens, Glenn Murray. hard players who've been through it hundreds of
I
times
mean,
before.
even Knockout when we went up, he had
Yeah,
experience. Yeah, I
and
think
you look at their side tonight, and the only players who have experienced anything near that, I suppose, is Janssen with Leeds last
yeah,
season. Been looking at that. Ben Rama, Watkins, Mbuembo, De Silva, Norgard, Macondas, Rico Henry. Great players on their day, but
yeah.
just
I mean, a
not good enough
majority
when it
of them
comes.
are under 2025, which
Yeah, and I don't think you can. You just can't force your way out of players. As much as it is to be commended, you need the experienced heads, and I think in the playoffs it will show. So the final, personally,
yeah. I mean,
if
if you look at the Norwich team that went up, they had a mixture, didn't they? To back your point up, they had all the bright youngsters, but then that was sort of held together by your Tetties, your Closers, your Pookies.
Hanley, Jordan Rhodes as well,
Yeah, so
very experienced players at that level. Tim Krul as well.
was he there in the Championship?
Yeah, he was there. So
So
I
that'll
think
be
they need to.
third playing sixth, if I'm correct, and fourth
And
playing
then I think
fifth.
Fulham will blitz Cardiff. Cardiff, I was surprised they're even in the playoffs, to be honest.
Me
Have
too.
not noticed them all season.
They've sort of
And
come under the radar, haven't they? Because I
they
was
have a bit.
thinking the exact
It's
same.
always those teams which end up going up.
They must have been on one hell of a run because they were mid-table.
Yeah, they're a poor. They're a poor side, so I see Fulham blitzing them.
So
I'm happy to be proved wrong. A Cardiff Swansea player final with the fans would have been chaos.
yeah,
Uh,
no, I'm gonna agree. Fulham have got experience as well, like you said.
yeah,
They went up through playoffs 2 years ago, didn't they?
yeah. So
Brentford,
um,
Swansea. It's a
I'm going
tough
to go
one for me.
I'm going to go Swansea Fulham in the final. Swansea have sort of crashed their way into the playoffs, and those teams, if you carry on form,
I think that's a tough one to call because
I'm going to go. I'm going to go really rogue here. I'm going to say Swansea are going to go up.
wow,
I think that's my
I think
that's
it's
my
got to be
shout.
Fulham for me.
Fulham,
I'm
fair enough.
predicting it's really hard to say because if you look at Swansea Brentford and
Mm-hmm.
it's not a playoff game, you'd say Brentford to win most likely. But
Yeah,
I
I
think
just think the experienced heads will show in that playoff.
Brentford
Swansea's done the playoffs before.
year after year they're bottling these last few games. I think they've been in and around the playoffs for about 5 years now.
It's because of the lack of experience, and it's the lack of, the team, they sell on players every year, and it works for them financially, and it's worked for them because they've improved their performance year on year. But I just think they will not get through the two legs, and Swansea may nick it off Fulham. But it'll be a hard one to call that final for me, Swansea Fulham.
Awesome. And
Um,
so went going down was Charlton, Wigan and Hull.
yeah,
Uh,
I think before today, the only one really confirmed was Hull.
I
I think it
mean,
would have taken a 16-0 win for them
yeah,
to actually stay up, and they went out with a whimper, 3-0 lost at Cardiff. Just
I
poor,
think
poor. They were. I did actually back them in a bet, both teams to score, and I cashed out for £6 because I just suddenly decided
the
I'm
team that
not.
loses 8-0 to I think
Yeah,
the 8-0 defeat sort of
I sealed it.
final nail in the coffin.
Yeah, definitely. They played Luton the following weekend, the weekend before, and they just didn't look up for it. Massive game for them, and they just weren't interested in it.
Yeah.
Charlton went down. Weird season for them. Looked really good at the beginning of the season, but
Yeah,
they've had
top
they've had
six.
yeah they had three separate owners across the season, and it's been turmoil off the pitch,
Yeah, I
which I
think
think has
Lee
really had a
Bowyer
top.
fighting a losing battle there.
Yeah, definitely.
He's I quite rate Lee Bowyer as a manager. He's quite outspoken, and
Yeah,
that sort of club, he's, like I say, fighting a losing battle, and I think you need to be a bit outspoken to try and get any sort of backing or support from the board
especially with the
financially.
shit show going on there.
Yeah,
They've had a tough few years, so I do feel for Charlton in that sense. They're unlucky, but
yeah. I mean, they got.
yeah,
I mean, they got. I think eighth in the Premier League not that long
yeah.
ago.
But clubs fall, clubs come back, and I think I saw a Hull fan say it on Twitter during the week.
Hull in the Prem
Well, but
less
they
than
were saying,
5 years ago.
I think it was, Hull have had their time and they will be back. And that, I don't know whether they necessarily will, depending on the ownership situation, but every club has their time and, it sort of comes round and sometimes it doesn't work out. But these clubs do come back.
I mean,
A club of Charlton's size, they still, I mean, if it wasn't boycotting for the owners, they'd still get a decent crowd.
I will
Whole
say
different situation. Yeah.
it is rather coincidental that all three teams that went down have got absolutely shocking ownership right now.
Yeah, they're all having ownership troubles. Wigan going down, so that because they're 12-point deduction, which is so unbelievably harsh. Send them down on that, but there's not a lot you can really do. It's what
The
it's
owners will
happened.
be happy with their Filipino bet, allegedly.
Well,
Allegedly.
allegedly. So it'll be interesting to see what sort of happens with Wigan. They can still appeal it, which could be interesting.
Wow.
So it'd
That would
be
obviously relegate Barnsley.
yeah, who stayed up in the last minute against Brentford.
Huge.
Huge goal. So Barnsley will be over the moon, and they've done a very good job to grab themselves. I mean, before football restarted, Barnsley and Luton were 9 or 10 points adrift each, and they've both managed to stay up here. So they've done fantastic, really.
Yeah, the
For them
last
both to
5
stay.
games, Barnsley have got 2 draws, 1 defeat, and 2 wins. Against Brentford and Forest with it, 2 wins. So credit to the
Yeah,
players. They've pulled
both
there.
last-minute wins as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Fair play to them.
So very well done. Luton as well. Nathan Jones coming back and doing an
Absolute
amazing
hero,
job.
Brighton
So,
legend.
yeah.
Should have never left.
They've both done fantastic jobs to claw their way out, and I'm sure they'll be over the moon with Championship football for a second season in a row. It's interesting bag of results. Be interesting to see how they both do the following season, because Barnsley just seem to be perennially down.
Yeah, they delayed their relegation for a year, in my eyes.
And it's an interesting league, Championship next season. I think with the clubs. Who's coming up? Coventry coming up. Wickham coming up. I think the Championship is a lot weaker than it was this season with the teams coming up. Not to say no disrespect to Coventry and Wickham, but they haven't got spending power.
Again, shocking owners.
Oh no, we had a brief blip there.
Yeah, we're having slight connection issues.
So there may be cuts throughout.
Yeah,
but
I'm gonna cut them together.
I think with teams coming down, Bournemouth will come out of the Premier League. Probably massive question marks on whether they'll ever be back again.
It's a real shame because it seems the way it's going, it's that the Championship is just becoming a huge financial league, and the teams that can't afford to, put a lot of money into their teams at that level are the teams that are going down. Which
or that they're not going anywhere near the top.
I mean, you could say that's the case for every team in the Premier League as well, but I think that's sad.
It's an incredibly difficult league to get out of. with all the money spending, and so many clubs would just seem to be going for broke
Yeah,
as
I mean,
well.
if you look at
Um,
Leeds, Fulham, they all spent probably easily 50 million on their
yeah,
teams, which is ludicrous amounts of money compared to, say, 10 years ago for the Championship.
yeah. There's some big fees involved with Leeds.
I
Who's
guess
the other
that's the
team you
way
said there?
football's going.
Yeah,
Um,
but I think spending will change this summer, so
well, yeah, let's hope so.
be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see.
Uh, Blimey, 5-3 Liverpool.
Yeah,
Chelsea
saw that.
obviously got an FA Cup final to look forward to.
Hmm.
Uh, how did you see their performance against Man
They
United?
played really well. Man United were very flat though. I don't really understand why they dropped players either. Um,
Did they
concentrating.
drop Pogba and Fernandes?
Yeah, drop. Oh no, Fernandez started, but they dropped Greenwood, who seems to be on fire at the moment.
Greenwood
Another goal for
excites
him
me a
tonight.
lot.
Um, and I just don't understand why they dropped all the players. And it just seemed to be such a flat performance. De Gea just absolutely capitulated.
Well, he lost that semi for them in my eyes.
Yeah, yeah, he did.
All three of them savable.
But let's not take too much away from Chelsea's performance because I thought they played very, very well at times. Alonso, especially, was going down that wing at speeds not quite seen since he had a driver's license. So he was genuinely he was tearing down that wing.
I rate him
Um,
very highly.
yeah, I do.
One of the best techniques in the league. You don't see many players hit first time shots and volleys the
Yeah,
way he does as a left back, might I add.
yeah. As a left back, I think he's great player. Maybe not so amazing person, but
That could be said
great
for a lot of
player.
footballers.
Yeah. That can be said.
Big up Suarez.
Yeah. um, but then they played well. Harry Maguire looked poor, but I think people just home in on him because of the fee. I still
Yeah.
think he's the best centre back in the country.
I think the media and social
Um,
media has a big influence on football these days.
yeah, and a few abject performances from Maguire, and he'll be suddenly, oh, what's the point of spending all that money on him? But he's still the best English centre
Yeah, I
back.
mean, you
Um,
just got to look at Van Dijk. He had one bad game in probably 2 years against Arsenal.
hmm,
Suddenly he's the biggest meme on Instagram.
yeah.
And
So I think it's very harsh
yeah, I
to
mean,
slate Maguire like that.
yeah, definitely our best centre back for England.
And then I think in the other game, the other semi, that was just, well, I think it was more of a topic that we were going to talk about. Arsenal, obviously, through to the final. I'd just
Huge
like to
result
announce
for
I
them.
will be supporting Chelsea because after winding up so many Arsenal fans about Neil Maupay,
I think everyone is supporting
I can't
Chelsea.
bear them to win a title, win anything. But fair play to them. Arsenal have gone back to full-on Arsenal mode by beating possibly the best team in Europe, then losing to probably one of the worst teams in the Premier League this season in pure Arsenal fashion. But
Pure
they
Arsenal.
did really well. They dug in well. I thought,
They,
Arteta's starting to show signs that they're coming together as a team more. I
I
think there
mean,
does need to be a big clear out at Arsenal.
100%. I think they need to
Um,
get rid of 2 or 3. I mean, Ozil has got to go. £350,000
yeah,
a week. Attitude problems, lazy, magical player in his day, but when does that ever come
yeah, and
round?
you can't. I wouldn't even slate the decision to put him on 350 grand a week. It's a lot of money, but at the time he was looking like one of the best players in the world when they
Yeah.
put him on those
I
wages.
mean,
When he signed that new contract, and then
no one's really worth 350 a week though.
no, quite. But he was looking fantastic at the time.
I think he's a big talker in the manager's office. I think he's a
Yeah,
whinger.
yeah, obviously. If you're on
I think
350
he's
grand a week,
a very nice bloke, and if anyone's going to be on 350 grand, he does a lot of good charity work. So I'm not going to
yeah,
slate him as a person, but
no,
for what he brings to the team right now, I
nothing.
think, yeah, very poor decision, and we need him off our books. Send him.
I think how much that would free up. That's a transfer in
Well,
itself.
that's 3 players' wages.
Yeah.
3 decent
I
players.
think
100 grand a week's a lot of money.
what Arsenal have needed for about what feels like 5 or 10 years is a good centre back.
Yep. A
But
consistent centre back.
a consistent
I
centre back.
would.
You've obviously got Saliba coming back. Who could be decent. Um,
He's looked very good.
he's
He's had
very
his
looked very good
injury
in the French.
problems.
Yeah, he looks very
Which,
good in the French league, but that is the
think,
French league.
yeah.
I don't
But
think
you
there's.
do a job in the French league.
I don't think all the time the only real impression of the French, because I don't watch it, so I mean that's a pretty
No,
bad
yeah.
statement to make. But every week there seemed to be a video of Mbappe running the entire length of the pitch with nobody anywhere near him and just scoring a goal from doing about an 80-yard run.
That happens a lot.
So
There was one with Lucas where he literally run through the middle of the pitch. There was a world class Neymar goal not long ago where the defender really should have tackled him. About 3 of
so
them, sorry.
I think whether that's just a case of PSG just being so much better than the rest,
Yeah.
or the league being poor overall. So I think they definitely. There's one player who they would do amazing with, who I think they do amazing with. Lewis Dunk. Lewis Dunk is perfect for them.
Yep. We don't
Um,
want him to go though, do we?
I wouldn't. No, we don't want him to go. So I'm just gonna.
I think Dunk gets into.
Yeah, I wouldn't
I
say there's
don't
many
know. I
teams.
don't want us to sound like
No,
stereotypical delusional Brighton fans, but genuinely, I think he gets into 4 out of 6 top 6.
I think
Typical.
the only teams he doesn't get into are Man City. I don't think, and I don't think he gets into Liverpool. But other than
I
that, I
completely
can't see
agree.
it.
I mean,
Yeah,
questionable if he would get into United, but
maybe Chelsea. I think Chelsea just have a lot of options there.
I
Um,
think he gets in Chelsea. I'm afraid.
yeah. So yeah, he's obviously who I would sign if I was them. I think there are a couple like Guendouzi's obviously off for attitude
Yeah,
reasons. I think Lacazette's had his time at
yeah.
Arsenal. Aubameyang there's obviously question marks over whether he'll stay or not. They've got to keep him really, but he's the wrong side of 30 soon. So
I think he's definitely good for a 3-year deal. I know
yeah.
Barcelona are heavily sniffing around them.
And as well, like whenever Brighton play Arsenal, it's Aubameyang. I'm scared of Aubameyang.
Exactly.
That's the player I'm scared
I
of.
don't think you can lose both. I think if you lose
Yeah,
Aubameyang, you got to keep Lacazette, vice
yeah.
versa.
So maybe another striker in for them. I still think a massive mistake Arsenal made is getting rid of Giroud.
100% agree.
Because they have no other option. Giroud was just he was the other option that Arsenal
And
always had.
he's just a very good player.
And
Not the
he does the same
quickest, but
he does the same at Chelsea as well. He's just the option to just change it up a bit. And there's countless goals he scored from Arsenal where he's come off the bench or you've come up against a more physical team. And I just don't think you have anybody like that anymore.
I mean,
Like
typical
Nketiah
example
looks decent.
is the Aston Villa game. He would
Precisely.
have he basically won the game for Chelsea against a similar Villa performance where he gave Mings something to think about and got his goal.
I think Arsenal do miss him a lot, and I think they miss him more than they realise. A lot of Arsenal fans, I just think he just went to Arsenal, and I suppose he suffers a bit like Andy Carroll. He was obviously more successful like Andy Carroll. He just wasn't the typical Arsenal player.
Yeah,
But you need that in your side sometimes. I think that's where Liverpool might struggle next season. They haven't really got
probably go
someone.
down as one of the most underrated 100
Yeah,
goal
definitely.
Premier League strikers.
Yeah, definitely,
Because I'm
definitely.
sure he'll get
Yeah.
100.
So yeah, the final interesting Arsenal-Chelsea final yet again.
I'm just
Nobody wants.
glad there's no Drogba anymore to
Yeah, I
win the
know.
game for Chelsea.
I see it as a Chelsea win, just personally, just my gut feeling.
It's
Um,
it's one of those ones where it literally could go either way because
yeah,
Lampard's been. I mean, he's been a bit hot or cold this season, but you can certainly say his record against the top 6 has been exceptional. He really seems to know how to get results against the top six. So that could sway it in Chelsea's favour. However, you know, any Arsenal team could turn up.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see. I think it'll be an interesting final. I'm glad that's who it is. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Last bit of football before a shortish break.
They're thinking about rolling straight into football in September, aren't they?
September, yeah. So, that'll be late August and we'll just go boom, straight in. I'm fine with that, personally. Just get on with it.
Yeah. What do you reckon
That's
the
why I think
players?
Brighton should get a bit of form, especially this last game. We've got to look to win that, carry it on to next season.
I think they're looking to continue the transfer window into October.
Yes. So it'll be interesting.
Definitely favour the big teams.
Yeah. But it'll be back to, cause the last few seasons we've had it where it's ended before the first game of the season.
Yeah.
It means the transfer window will be dipping into the season a little bit.
Which I like, because their reasoning is that it links up with all of Europe's transfer windows. So
I don't personally. I prefer it before the beginning of the season.
well, yeah.
I just think you have your squad there, and then that's where you go with.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I agree, because if it goes into the season, then the big teams can say, look, striker's playing crap. Let's go spend 80 million on one.
Yeah.
Whereas,
and that favours the big teams.
the teams like, Brighton and whatnot that don't have the big pulling power.
Yeah.
They'll struggle.
But then at the same time, you can see, even with Brighton, or a similar club in that position. I'm not only referring to Brighton.
Well, I think it's what we know. So
yeah. So
it's our
even
reference
someone
point.
like Palace or like Southampton, or whatever. For the sake of non-bias, what it shows is that bring a play in, and if we still got some holes to fill, bringing a couple of extra bodies. So it's got its benefits from both sides.
Yeah.
I'm not wholly against. Not wholly against it, but I think that's. I did like it with the last day.
Welcome to this week's segment of What Shirt Are You Wearing, Jack? What shirt have you got?
I talked about wearing this shirt, and I was just going to hold it up. But I am wearing. It's not very exciting, the shirt I'm wearing. So you've got two for the price of one today. First of all, you've got a Celtic. Celtic. Oh, that does not make my figure look good at all. A Celtic this season's third shirt, or away shirt, a nice grey and pink number.
Give us a 12. No one on the back. Scott Brown.
No one on the back. No, I was tempted by Scott Brown, but I panicked when I bought it.
I'm glad you didn't, because I would have had to 2-foot you.
Yeah. So then the shirt I've got today is a Sligo Rovers away shirt, which I got an M&M Direct of all places. Great for football shirts. I got it delivered today by Hermes, who decided to turn up 3 hours after they said they would. And when they turned up, I watched them walk up to the door, leave the parcel in the porch, and not even bother to knock on the door, which was just a strange move. But anyway, but no, it's a nice little shirt. Irish League, first Irish League shirt. Just a nice blue number.
I want to give a huge shout out for Umbro being the manufacturer.
Yeah, I know. Not enough clubs have Umbro as their kit manufacturer these days. But they were always quite.
Come with a collar? Is that a manufacturing?
Yeah, I do like a collar actually in a shirt. I see this one feels a bit strange because there's nothing around the neck. It feels very open and free. But the collars do catch on my beard sometimes, which is quite annoying.
Itchy.
Yeah, itchy.
So that is what shirt Jack is wearing / has got today. Thank you, Jack. Final day is upon us, Jack, and we have got
Mhm.
two main candidates for relegation.
Yep.
We got Villa and Watford.
And Bournemouth, I suppose, as well. They could still easily stay up. But both
Well,
teams would have to lose there,
yeah,
obviously.
it's very spicy as all the goal differences are virtually identical.
Yep. I think Villa are one goal better off than the other two,
Yeah,
which essentially means nothing
yeah. So
because you
big
go 1-0
3
down and
0
lose.
win and other losing. Where do you see that going?
I So Villa have got West Ham uh, at London Stadium. Although it doesn't matter too much the home and away aspect. Then we've got Watford at against Arsenal and Bournemouth against Everton. Um, it's a hard one to call, but I think I'm going to call it Watford and Bournemouth to go down. I think Bournemouth will win and still go down.
Yeah,
That's my call. I
Everton look
think
very lackluster.
they don't look interested. They're on the beach,
Generally,
and to a certain extent, you can't really blame them.
yeah. They need big
Watford,
season to
I just
arrive.
think Watford's decision to get rid of Pearson was just crazy. They would not have lost 4-0 if Pearson was manager, because they would have just been told one thing only, which is you just tighten this up and you literally
Well, you don't lose. That's the goal.
you don't lose. Well, not even don't lose, but you don't lose badly, especially with their goal difference hanging it in the balance. Um, and then to lose 4-0, which just sort of smacks of a team who've given up.
That's
Uh,
almost it's almost like losing 4 points.
yeah,
Sorry,
because I
yeah,
mean,
losing a
in
point rather than
similar situation, you just grind out over the 0-0, the 1-0. What you look at as manager, and they would go into it in a better position on the final day.
yeah. I
Uh,
mean, what the situation with Pearson? It's obviously not the first case of Watford uh, sacking managers.
no,
What is going on at Watford?
well, I mean, just looking down a list of their managers here, it's the fourth manager of the season,
I mean,
which
that's
is
bonkers.
crazy. Yeah, they've had Javi Gracia to start off with. Obviously, that was the first time they'd actually kept it. Oh no, that was their first manager that ever kept past the end of a season, a very long time, and that just sort of the capitulation against City in the cup final 6-0, and they just never really recovered. Then they brought back in Quique Sanchez Flores, or as I called him the other day, Quiche Santos, in
Quiche
terms of
Lorraine
spelling,
Santos.
who only actually was manager for 10 games, which is
I
nothing
mean,
really.
to put it in
And then he was
perspective,
sacked.
I don't even remember him being back.
Yeah. Then, Hayden Mullins was a very short caretaker spell before they brought in finally Nigel Pearson, who, looking at the position that they were in, they were 10 points off safety, and now they're 1 point off, and that's a hell of a turnaround to even get
He
them in that
did a
position.
magnificent job to
And then to
even.
sack him 2 games before the end. I mean, they were abject against West Ham. I will give the Watford board that, but it's just you
We
just
don't
don't.
know what's gone on behind the scenes, but
I
to
mean,
sack a.
Pearson is the kind of man to fight a brick wall. Um,
He absolutely
So
loves
if
it.
he could have just punched someone at random after that game.
Yeah.
I thought watching that game, because I did watch the second half of that game um, against West Ham Watford. And why on earth he took off Troy Deeney, I'm still lost. He got a goal back for them and brought on Andre Gray, who, to be honest, as soon as he put a Watford shirt on, he's been poor.
He's
Um,
not the Burnley
no.
Andre Gray.
So that was a strange decision in that game. But still, you've got 2 games. Um, So it's a strange one. I
Yeah.
don't really know what the thinking is.
I mean, even a Pearson Watford against Arsenal, I'd.
I'd back, especially with Arsenal with nothing to play for, because now with that Aston Villa defeat, it
Yeah.
means they cannot get Europe under any circumstance.
Yeah.
unless of course they get to the FA Cup final. So they're not going to be a team hungry. If Watford were on their day, and I'm sure Pearson could get them fired up, but
I mean,
instead
let's
you've
not forget Pearson's the man that ended Liverpool's however long unbeaten run. So
yeah, and he did that amazing job with Leicester when he got there. I mean, he did lose the plot halfway through that. If you remember, he strangled James MacArthur,
sometimes
and
you
the
got to
whole
do it.
ostrich interview, the famous.
You're an
Um,
ostrich. You bury your
yes,
hand in the sand.
yeah, like, can you bend your neck far enough that you can bury it in the sand? But it's strange because I think he would have kept them up. But there you go, they go into that last day knowing that even if they win, they still might not stay up. I do have a sneaking suspicion though that West Ham will get something out of the Villa game.
Well,
Uh,
they're safe. It's always hard.
it's hard to tell, but Southampton especially, you say they're safe. They've still played very well ever since they
True.
know they're safe.
True.
They drew with us. Danny Ings is a bloody good player.
A bloody good
Um,
player.
he's a bloody good player. And they obviously beat Bournemouth 2-0 to more or less seal their fate. So yeah, it's definitely a bit more open, that Arsenal game and that West Ham game. I think West Ham might want to prove a little bit of a point because I've said this a lot, and they are the best team that was down there all season.
And I
They shouldn't
suppose
be.
you always want to finish strong, don't you?
Yeah, and they are the strongest team probably in that bottom six, which sort of taken relegation battle till towards the end of the season. And you look at their squad, and they've got some very talented players in there. About 50 attacking midfielders when they really need one. But so I can see them wanting to prove a point. We are good enough. We will be good next season, whether it's with Moyes or not.
I mean,
So it'd be interesting to see that result.
the
I think
team West Ham have got to be in that position is sort of.
Yeah. So I think they've definitely got the power to beat Villa.
Of course.
And I definitely think Watford, they have got the power to even possibly beat Arsenal.
I
So it'd be
wouldn't put it past
very,
them. I really
very
wouldn't.
interesting final day, I think. As for the rest of the games, I suppose you've got the top six.
So would a Watford win guarantee safety, or is it sort of a goal
No.
difference thing
It's a goal difference thing
between Watford and Villa?
Villa. So Villa could still win, and Watford could win, and Villa win, and they go down. But if Villa drop points and Watford win. But if Watford win 3 or 4-0 and Villa only win 1-0, then it's going to be a case where stay up. So it'll be an interesting final day, definitely.
So you're saying Watford to go down?
I think it's going to be either Watford or Villa that stay up. I think Bournemouth will win and go down. But it'll be interesting. It's really hard to call between the two because Watford on their day can turn up, and I just think Villa are so defensively poor. I can see it just all unravelling for them. Not a huge amount of Prem experience in that side either. Because I think the massive dip for them has coincided with Tom Heaton's injury.
Yeah, superb player.
Superb keeper. I think was knocking on the door of England again before he was injured.
Absolutely. I think before the injury, he makes the squad.
Yeah, definitely.
I think the Villa team that started yesterday would have been probably at least 6 signings from the Championship team.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
give them another
Grealish,
year to gel.
Yeah, it'll be interesting if they stay up. Wouldn't mind seeing them going down because it kind of proves if you spend loads of money, you just go down.
If they go down, they'll be straight back up, I'm sure, because they'll get at least 50 million for Grealish, probably because he's English and.
If they stay up
good.
or whether they go down, Grealish is leaving.
Yeah, so they'll have at least 50 million and then parachute payments.
It'll be interesting to see if they do go down. Whereas I think
way.
Watford could could struggle with investment, especially in these hard times. So it'd be interesting to see. Very interesting to see. But I think my heart tells me, my head tells me Watford, but my heart tells me Aston Villa go. So I'm going to go with my heart, and I'm going to say it's going to be Norwich, Bournemouth, and Villa which go down. I like a bit of excitement.
Followed
I
his
like
heart.
something that's a bit, off
Personally,
the cuff.
I'm saying Watford are down.
Watford are down.
I think the
Fair enough.
players want to protest the board. They won't be up for it.
But then what do they gain? Relegation.
Well, with the amount of egos in the squad, they'll probably assume they won't be there next year.
Yeah.
Jump ship. Don't want to be at a club where the board is that snaky to the managers. But again, we don't know what happened to behind the scenes.
We'll see. We've got a few days, so
And
we'll
Brighton are officially safe.
Yep. I can relax. I can calm down. Really slugged it out against Newcastle, point against Southampton, which I said we both lose, I think, because I was delirious from heat.
I believe I said can't see us losing. So
yeah, very valid point.
Burnley last game of the season.
Look, there's holes in our team. I know where we've got to make the signings. I wouldn't, I'm not gonna say like we don't have gaping holes. It's not like we've got massive holes in the side, but I see where we need a little bit of reinforcement. So what I would personally do is I'd play kids in the positions where we're looking for players. I think right wing is a massive hole in our side.
I agree.
Right side of midfield. I think we need another left back. I like Dan Burn, still keep Dan Burn, but I think Bernardo's time has come. He's off now. And I wouldn't mind seeing Cochrane from the academy play there. He was on the bench against Newcastle. I'd possibly start Peter Gwargis or Ryan Longman, who are both right wings for the under-23s. And I put Richards on the bench, the bloke from City, we bought for $2 million in the summer. I'd like to see him just come on, see what he can do. And I'll start Connolly or Morpay up top. They're obviously the future of the side. It'll just be interesting to see. Maybe give one of the keepers a go. Someone like, you never know. Might even see Sanchez in goal. He's very good with his feet. That would be interesting. But both teams nothing to play for. Might have a little experiment. Fourth season in the Prem.
That's what you want to see when there is literally nothing at stake. You want to blood some of the youngsters, give them.
A couple of players I think might be off. I wouldn't mind seeing sort of a last farewell. Although I think we've got a little bit of that in the Newcastle game. That very short.
We'll finish off on 3 in, 3 out. Firstly, 3 players that you think, maybe it's time to go.
What, at Brighton?
Yeah, at Brighton.
So I'd definitely say, as much as I love him and go down with club legend, I don't necessarily want him to go, but I know he is going to go. I think Shane Duffy's off. He put a Twitter post up, said like thanks to them, said farewell or something like that.
Did he?
At the end, I can't remember the exact wording, but it looked very final.
He's bound to start against Burnley. He's never really been rated by Potter, it seems.
No, and I can see why, because he came in for Webster in a couple of games since the restart. I think Leicester away. He came on because Webster got winded. It was that game at Leicester. He came on about halfway through, and he just does not. He just can't. He's not a ball playing centre. He'll throw himself at the ball. Do everything you want, but he cannot play as a ball at his feet.
I think
so. For me personally, time to move on. Don't work in Potter's system. I love him, but his time is over.
I agree, and you look at Duffy.
Hmm.
The moment when he comes on for Webster, he just looks a lot more sluggish,
Yeah.
which
Um,
makes me sad because the Duffy and Dunk partnership was iconic and an
yes,
absolute
iconic.
brick wall. But
I think just solely, I think if he gets a run in the team, he won't be sluggish. But that's just a match
there's
fitness
just
issue.
no room for him. I think
But
we
it's
got
just the
centre
ball at his
backs.
feet issue. It's the ball at his
Yeah,
feet. He's not doing that. And we've got two in the championship, Clark and White, who can play as the ball at their feet. We've even got people like Ostigard, Hayden Roberts from the academy.
yeah. I
Um,
think it comes
Production,
down to
yeah,
supply and demand. We've
yeah.
got.
And I think you can easily find a place in the Prem. I don't even think that's a shadow of a doubt.
I mean, he
Just
was
not with
heavily linked
us.
with Leicester at one point. I think
Is it
he'd still get in their team.
Leicester, West Ham, Burnley? Burnley and West Ham being the prime candidates. West Ham are screaming out for anything from another those two clowns at centre back,
Yeah,
Diop and O'Connor. Um, so yeah, and then I think Bernardo's on his way out. I think he's done. Great player.
I think
Potter doesn't like him clearly.
it's a shame because he's never
It's
really
a
done
shame,
anything
but
wrong.
no, but I'm happy for him just to move
The
on. I don't,
system
yes,
overrides everything.
yeah, and I think Dan Burn's got my player of the season vote. So um, people say he's not a great attacking outlet, but look, he's done nothing wrong. He's done nothing to deserve to be dropped at any point.
Exactly. And fun little
So
drinking game. Drink every
hmm,
time they mention Burns' height or
Lamptey's height,
the tallest left back in Premier League history or
yeah.
whatever.
So that's I think
Duffy,
he's
Bernardo, one more.
one more interesting one.
If I
Well, we know
had to
Shalotto.
push you.
Shalotto's gone, so I'm not going to pick him and Kyle. They're officially gone. For me personally, I think Glenn Murray's time is up, but I'd still keep him around personally. So he might stay in the squad.
Coaching staff.
Yeah, because he's probably the best finisher I've ever seen play for Brighton. So keep him, and then free in. This could be interesting.
Let's go positions more than.
Positions, yeah. Actually, I'm just going to change that Glenn Murray one quickly to Ali Reza Jahanbash. Um, probably lose all the Iranian followers if we had any.
Yeah.
But his
Now
time is just up.
we've got him back.
He seems like a lovely bloke, really nice bloke.
Oh, what to leave?
Yeah, to
Sorry, I
leave,
thought
get
you
rid of
meant
Ali
best
Reza.
finisher.
No. Just get rid of him. Just look, he's a lovely bloke.
I agree.
Scored a couple of great goals. Whatever, it just hasn't worked out, and it's not going to work out. He
He's
just can't handle the physicality of this
slow.
league. Move him on.
Too slow.
If he goes to Ajax somewhere, he may flourish. I think it's good for him. I think it's good for us.
Yep.
So I get rid of him.
Put a nice
Tell
little bonus scheme in his contract if he gets a few goals.
Yeah, but then what I would say, free in, I'd have a left back, have a left back in. Maybe someone who can play wing back more. And what else would I have in? I'd
Right
have
winger, I think you said.
right winger. Yeah, so right winger, definitely have him because I think we're really lackluster on that side. We've got Trossard, we've got even Moyes sort of. They're not really wingers when Moy and Gross are playing. They're more like sort of. I think Gross is more of a cam. Moy is sort of like a box to box almost a little bit, but he's more of a cam than anything. Same with McAllister. I think we're overfilled in the cam department a little bit.
Yeah,
So
I
bring
think
in a right winger. Nobody really in mind particularly. Wouldn't mind Ollie Watkins. I think he's a great player. But it just depends what happens to Brentford. So that'd be interesting to see. I wouldn't mind another striker. I think we're still light on that.
Yeah, I think we definitely need a striker.
Yeah.
It depends what Andoni does.
He's finished at this club.
I
I think.
don't reckon he'll come back. I think Connolly's good. I think it's a case of needing something different. Like most clubs, I think.
I really not because I was at university there last year, but I really like Grant from Huddersfield. think he's a great player, strong. Maybe slightly not tall enough in that section, but I don't necessarily think whether strikers are going that way these days because the best strikers in the Premier League seem to be getting smaller and smaller.
The only worry about Grant for me is he's a bit of a penalty merchant. A
he
lot
is a
of
little bit,
goals
but
have come from the spot.
but yeah, and then well, that is free. But I'd also just add a midfielder, just a Stevens replacement, give him a bit of competition. They'll keep Stevens because
I think we definitely need a centre mid.
yeah,
Don't
someone who's just a
like
bit
Proper.
stronger.
Don't like Stevens. Can't play
Um,
them together.
do you know what though? Proper is a lot better in attack going forward than he is playing that sort of CDM role. I always think him trying to break up as a player. I don't know if you've seen that video of a steward at Stevenage a few years ago, where he just sort of went down the body of the person without touching them, trying to pat them in. And that's him breaking up play. But I won't go on about that anymore. As you said, a quick 3 players.
Yeah.
Wrap this up. But
I think the fact that we've had about 2 competent wingers all season, it's a disgrace.
yeah, so we're screaming
We're
out.
gagging for a winger. Ali Razor, bad. Izquierdo, injured.
MIA.
Knockout, we got rid of him, which is a stinker.
See, I
Would have
think
got in our
50
team
million
this year, I'm afraid.
he would have got in the team, yeah. I keep March for defensive reasons.
Yeah, March, good, but more defensive.
Not the same as when he was in the Championship, when
He's more defensive as well. You know, we ain't got a Traore that's going to take players on.
No.
Anyway, we could waffle on all night, but
Yeah, and we have.
we'll call it there. Say a big thank you to anyone that's got this far, if anyone.
Yeah, if anyone. Yeah, what's the secret word? The secret player. Comment the secret player if you've got this far.
Go on.
Rory Fallon, New Zealand's number 9.
So yeah, comment Rory Fallon down below if you somehow made it this far.
Yeah.
I've been Andy Lagubin.
I've been Jack Stevenson.
And you've listened to the bloody Tiki Chatter. It's such a tongue twister. Tiki Chatter podcast.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week. Adios.
Adieu.